spousal maintenance is the next series of slides. Here's the Missouri statute. This is often an issue that causes cases to become difficult. We try lots of cases over spousal maintenance. Is there anybody that would want to, this used to be called alimony. Anybody that gets excited about the idea of paying spousal maintenance to the other spouse? Get you excited? You want to do it? Volunteer to do it?
I wouldn't call it exciting.
Right. I mean, it's a big issue. There's a lot of cases go to trial on this. Spouse who seeks maintenance under 452-335 has to show that they lack sufficient property, including marital property, apportioned to him or her to provide for his or her reasonable needs. So you have to prove that you can't meet your reasonable needs based on your income. But again, reasonable, what does that mean? Is it reasonable to go to the salon every day? Judge, I need maintenance. I go to the salon every day. Is it reasonable? Judge, I need maintenance. I've got to drive a Lexus. Life is not any good if I don't have a Lexus. Is that reasonable? So they have to prove that they lack sufficient property to meet their reasonable needs. Right? They're unable to support himself or herself through appropriate employment, or as a custodian of a child whose condition or circumstances make it appropriate that the custodian not be required to seek employment outside the home. Let me kind of break this down outside the statute and try to put it in a way that hopefully makes sense for you, common sense wise. I look at maintenance myself as a three-step deal. So issue one is a person who's seeking maintenance, they have to prove they're in the red. When you look at their income, you look at their reasonable needs, you can find out all day long, but they're in the red. They don't make enough money to meet their reasonable needs. If that's the case, you're over hump one. Then you have to look at the other spouse. So the one spouse seeking's in the red, you look at the other spouse. You look at their reasonable needs and you look at their income. And the issue is, are they in the green? Do they have extra money? Right? So can they pay their reasonable needs and do they have money left over? If they do, the spouse seeking maintenance is over hump two. If the other spouse is in the red too, really is a maintenance case. Right? Wife can't meet her needs, and unfortunately this happens a lot. Wife can't meet her needs, neither can husband. Well, if you can't afford to pay maintenance at that point. But if you're over hump two, then the court looks at all kinds of different factors at that point. So they look at the financial resources of the party seeking maintenance, including marital property apportioned to him, and his ability to meet his needs independently, including the extent to which a provision for support of a child living with the party includes a sum for that party to custodian. So in other words, okay, you can't meet your reasonable needs on your income, but you're getting $2 million as part of this divorce. Well, the court could consider that. They could say, well, maybe you got to use some of that $2 million to support yourself. I mean, again, it's just one of the factors. The time necessary to acquire sufficient education or training to enable the party seeking maintenance to find appropriate employment. Right? This is where vocational experts can be important pieces in cases. In cases where we represent the person who doesn't want to pay maintenance, oftentimes you can get a vocational exam with a person who's seeking maintenance, and maybe they don't have a job, they're not making money, but maybe you can prove if they tried, they could get a job. Right? We've had cases where somebody was like, hey, MBA, what's maintenance? You're like, well, you got an MBA, like if you send out some resumes and stuff, like maybe you could get a job. But in some cases it's hard if they don't have any education or training. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes there's just no ability there. The comparative earning capacity of each spouse, which is your deal. So, I mean, I think a lot of attorneys right out of the gates, party comes in, they say they want maintenance. Of course, attorneys, and one of our first questions is, okay, well, how much you make? How much does the other party make? And the further apart that is, yeah, absolutely. That makes a huge difference. And of course, we love to look at the length of the marriage. The length of the marriage is a big deal. But courts look at the standard of living established in the marriage, and that's true. The lady that has $2 million or whatever might say, I got 2, but I was used to 5. I mean, come on, David, right? You expect me to live on 2? Right. So the court can look at it, but again, it's just one factor. The obligations and assets, including the marital property portion to him and the separate property of each party. Right. So if you were wealthy coming in, you had a bunch of money, court can look at that. The duration of the marriage. So obviously, the longer the length of the marriage, right, the greater the likelihood that maintenance could be awarded. Short-term marriages. The less likely. The problem with the statute is if you're looking for certainty, you don't get it here. Right? I did a podcast with a gentleman, an attorney down in Florida, and for any of you who like podcasts, we had a podcast, Family Law Talk with Stange Law Firm, but I did a podcast with an attorney in Florida. And in Florida, he was telling me, we had a big conversation about maintenance, and in Florida, they've got specific standards, which is the very, after a certain number of years, it's this, after a certain number of years, this is kind of where you're capped. So the Florida statute is like very specific in terms of the longer the marriage, the greater the maintenance risk, and it caps it. In Missouri, unfortunately, if you're looking for certainty, it's wide open, right? It's wide open. But definitely the shorter the marriage, the less likely. The age and physical and emotional condition of the spouse seeking maintenance, right? So I mean, that makes a big difference. If somebody's disabled or on disability, somebody's asking about that last night, the spouse seeking maintenance is on disability and they can't work, yeah, that's going to increase your chance of getting maintenance, absolutely. If somebody's got a physical or health condition and they can't work, absolutely. But that works both ways too, right? I've had individuals who used to make a lot of money, but maybe they had a heart attack or something like that. Now they're not able to make the money anymore. So that, this thing can kind of ebb and flow both ways. The ability of the spouse from whom maintenance is sought to meet his needs while meeting those of the spouse seeking maintenance. Again, this is kind of my step two in a lot of ways, the way I look at the way judges look at this, which is if you're in the red, you can't pay maintenance. On the other hand, if you've got 10,000 extra a month, and you decide I just don't want to pay maintenance. Yeah, but you got 10,000 more, right? You got 10,000 left over. Then that theoretically hurts. 9, oh my goodness, the conduct of the parties in the marriage again. Really? Conduct of the parties in the marriage? Yep, comes right back in there again. I thought it didn't matter if I cheated. I thought it didn't matter if I was, mean to myself in the marriage. There you go, it's right back in there again. How about this? Any other relevant factor? Anything else that I think is important as a judge? That's, and this is, again, this is why if you're looking for certainty, you're not going to get it. Judges can do lots of different things. And different judges do lots of different things. Different judges have lots of different viewpoints. What's relevant to one judge might not be relevant to another. Judge writing a maintenance order would say, okay, to come back, they would say, all right, considering maintenance of the case, I considered 452-335, and then looking at the factors, it looks like wife lacks sufficient property apportioned to her in order to meet her reasonable needs in this case, and that she's unable to support herself through appropriate employment. And they could say, looking at the factors, maybe I relied on 2, because I think it's going to take, maybe this wife 5 years to whatever to get back out there and get a job. And they could say, and hey, looking at the standard number 4, that one was really important to me too, because she was used to having a nice life, and well, I don't care about 5. And duration, it's a 20-year marriage, right? That weighed heavily, upon me. And in addition, the wife is, so the wife is 70, and I mean, come on, she hasn't made money in 20 years, so I'm going to consider that. And on top of it, she's got a bad back, and that was really important to me as a judge. And look, he's got 10,000 extra bucks a month. I mean, it's only fair. What's fair is fair. You got to give up some of it, right? And then, he's also really mean. Mother's buying flowers on, Valentine's Day, and all I did is watch monster truck shows and sports, and, he was always at the bar, and I don't really like that, and then, I just didn't like the way he was dressed, and part of it, I'm just kidding, can't say that, but I'm just saying the judge has to write the judgment, they rely on the factors. So they can't just do anything they want, they have to show in their judgment, however, that I looked at the statute, and they relied on the factors. And again, as long as they didn't abuse their discretion, which is a legal standard, and the judgment's not against the weight of the evidence, then yeah, they can rely on various different factors, and they can do lots of different things. Another judge could look at it, go through these factors, and come to a totally different conclusion. For me as an attorney, in some ways, if I had, black and white's kind of nice, because black and white allows me to give clients more certainty, and I think clients kind of like certainty, right? And then, of course, people that, haven't read the divorce statutes, and I don't think many people read it for fun before they call me, right? Oh yeah, Kirk, I just read all of section 452. I read that every night before I go to bed. Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. 452, 335, 5, that's my favorite. Not many people quoted like a Bible verse or something, right? Oh yeah, I just love that, I know it. So right, so when clients want to call all the time, they want a precise question. Okay, let me give you a 2-minute thing. Am I paying maintenance? Can't answer that. I don't even, you might not know who the judge is, I don't know what, you get more certainty when you pre-try the cases with the judges. Some judges will be, yeah, I mean, you do settlement conferences, pre-trial conferences, and you can have discourses with the judges, and oftentimes you start to kind of get the judge's viewpoint on a case, but I've seen judges change their mind too.